This is, I think, going to be one of those really, really interesting matches where, anything could go either way. Both of these teams are kind of on the edge of taking match win, match point. And so every last decision, every little bit of advantage that you can carve out in an individual game really matters. If you can take it 2-0, it sets your momentum up. It's like, well, we're 3-1 down at the moment, but if we can win this, 3-2 is looking a lot better than 3-1. It sets you on your path to the comeback. And Malaysia just want those. Any win is a good win because it's one step closer to clutching out the top 16 spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And why don't we look at our first player in this match between Team Austria and Team Malaysia? We're going to be looking at Chris Gooss's team, Rillaboom, Dragonite, with that scale shot. Only scale shot as its primary attacking move. It does have some supporting moves, Protect, Haze, and Tailwind. Pretty standard Life Orb Golden Ghost set with Terra Water as a defensive Terra to try to keep itself alive from other Dark types, Fire types, Ground types. Annihilate with a Citrus Berry Rage Fist set, so no Final Gambit on this one. Has Terra Fire as a defensive Terra type as well, prevented from burns and other offensive attacks that would hit it on the Ghost and fighting weaknesses. We have Friendguard Mousehold with the Focus Sash trying to make it sure that it takes at least 2 hits to get a KO, and an Assault Vest Blood Moon Ursaluna with Vacuum Wave.
Yeah, it's nice harkening back to when Ursaluna was nice and straightforward. You just slap an Assault Vest on there, you play a little bit defensively, you've got the Friend Guard as well, and you can really just try to take full advantage of the extra bulk that Assault Vest gives him, plus you get a little bit of priority on the side. So really nice consistent team for Christoph. Got a lot of experience in competition as well, a couple of top 16s in the 2025 season and getting day 2 in 2024, made it to the World Championships twice. So certainly a player that could take this all the way for Malaysia. Or for Austria, in fact. Not for Malaysia. Maybe they can take it all the way for Malaysia as well, if they have a little bit of a bad time. But looking to represent Austria well.
Yeah, I love seeing this type of team where there's so many different cores you can work with. Rillaboom obviously having the fake out. You can go with the Mousehold with pretty much every other Pokemon as a lead. Mousehold, Blood Moon, Ursaluna makes the Ursaluna extremely tank with Friendguard. You have a typical Mouse Ape lineup where you can get the Rage Fist off the beat up attacks 4 hits into the Rage Fist, boost that power up significantly, potentially getting 1-hit KOs on the entire field. Mousehold Golden Go is already such a strong core because you can get the Nasty Plot set up and start using that Make It Rain or Shadow Ball to just delete most of your opponent's Pokemon. And you have other cores too. You have Golden Go and Dragonite. You could try to get that Tailwind set up. You have Rillaboom trying to use Fake Out to set up the Nasty Plot. When you have a player as good as Christoph's and the results that they have, I'm always certain that they will be able to play this team very well.
So let's take a look over the other side of the battle. Let's see what Azri's running this weekend. It's going to be a pretty offensive team here. Whimsicott, Incineroar, Dragapult, Typhlosion completing that Tailwind core that's got lots of offensive pressure. The Choice Band and the Choice Specs really doing a lot of work. But then if Azri wants, they can just mix it up, go slow. Farigiraf, Blood Moon, Ursaluna, Life Orb and Terra Normal. This Ursaluna is not taking any prisoners whatsoever if it gets into a good spot. And with the Throat Spray, the Farigiraf is going to be able to make itself that bit more of an offensive presence as well. We were chatting about this matchup before going live, and we were both under the impression if Azri can get a good couple of turns for the start of the game, it's going to be very difficult for Christoph to be able to come back. I think this all comes down to how well Azri is going to be able to position their offensive pieces and how well Christoph is going to be able to counter that.
Yeah, it's going to be up to Christoph's to be able to recognize, is Azri going to want to go for an immediate Tailwind or an immediate Trick Room? You have Incineroar as an option to try to slow down the Rillaboom and the Dragonite. You do have to be careful if you bring the Incineroar into this Annihilate. It does carry the Defiant ability, increasing its attack by +1, and especially if you're leading it into a Mousehold and Annihilate Bleed, giving that extra damage is not what you want to see. It is going to be important for Azri to recognize which speed mode is going to be the best to move forward. Like you mentioned, the Ursaluna and the Furgraf as a core has been very strong since Blood Moon Ursaluna has been legal in the competitive circuit. Having that Life Orb Terra Normal, even Hyper Voice on resisted attacks can do so much damage when you also have the Furgraf doing so much by itself.
Yeah, it's like that's the real key here, is that I was just like, it's very hard to put together a team that doesn't take a lot of damage from what Azri's running. So, you know, I think that's going to be quite difficult for both of these players, putting the damage in the right place, but equally just getting the turns correct, because these sort of more offensively orientated teams, they don't switch around too well. You know, they want to be on the front foot, they want to be putting the pressure down. But if they get out of position, if Christoph is able to destabilize what Azri's running in this match at all, then Azri could find themselves on the back foot and then losing a game very quickly, just like Azri really wants to win those games also very quickly.
Yeah, 100%. Normally, with this type of team, you want to be able to lead both your offensive Pokemon. You do have your Incineroar available in the back as a pivoting option, but unfortunately, with the Annihilate, you do have to think about, do I want to bring the Incineroar at all?
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's see if that becomes a factor, because we've got a game ready to go. This is match 3 here, Victory Road World Cup. Let's get things kicked off. Whimsicott Ursaluna, a combination that you don't see all the time versus the very standard DUG composition lead Dragonite Ursaluna.
Yeah, this is an interesting lead. Normally, you like to see the Blood Moon Ursaluna with the Furgaraf and go into that Trick Room mode. But now with the Whimsicott, you are threading an immediate Tailwind into Hyper Voice combination, or even a Blood Moon could be coming out into either the Ursaluna on Christoph's side or the Dragonite breaking that multi-scale. The Ursaluna does have Assault Vest on Christoph's side, so it cannot protect in this situation. So if it was to take an attack, it would have to eat it or switch out into another Pokemon.
Yeah, this is where you know, you can see a Fake Tears being able to take some big knockouts here, but no Fake Tears, of course, on this Whimsicott, instead opting for the Tailwind environment there that it wants to be formed into. And this is it. We're going straight on the offensive here. It looks like this Ursaluna on Team Preview is part of the Trick Room mode, but it's clearly trained to be fast enough to take advantage of the Tailwind that Whimsicott comes in. Here's a Life Orb, Terra Normal Blood Moon into the Assault Vest Ursaluna. The Ursaluna is able to take it, obviously, because of the Assault Vest. But these Assault Vest Ursalunas that can't protect itself, they don't want to take too much damage too quickly, because they like to be a bit of an endgame piece in the puzzle. Now Scale Shot coming into the Ursaluna, targeting down that Pokemon, hitting 5 times. Now the combination of this and another attack from Ursaluna on Christoph's side could be enough to take the KO, especially if it's a Blood Moon. But no, just bringing the Whimsicott down to its Focus Sash.
Pretty good overall turn. You did get so much damage into this Ursaluna, getting that crit with the Scale Shot. Whimsicott going down to the Focus Sash from the Blood Moon. You're in range to be able to pick up KOs now if you're Kristops, but you still have to deal with Tailwind for a few more turns. Blood Moon, Ursaluna with the Terra Normal can still deal significant damage. Even going for something like a Hyper Voice into this Dragonite with the multi-scale still active, but the Whimsicott more than likely going to be moving first next in this matchup. Has access, I believe, to Moonblast as one of its offensive attacks, so it could try to break the multi-scale off this Dragonite unless it went for something like a Protect.
Well, there's also the Vacuum Wave that Azri's got to contend with on the Ursaluna. That's going to bypass the speed advantage that Tailwind gives. Whimsicott going for the Sunny Day, just getting the environment set up, presumably for a Typhlosion that's sitting and waiting in the back to start dishing out some damage. Now, even with the Tailwind, because the Dragonite got its Scale Shot up, it's going to be able to move before that Blood Moon Ursaluna, get its Tailwind up, but in response, the Ursaluna is able to break that multi-scale, from the Dragonite with a Hyper Voice, knock out the other Ursaluna, and both players get that positive momentum, but Christoph has matched the speed control.
Not only has Kristoff's matched the speed control, it is now staggered by 1 turn because Tailwind was used on Azri's side of the field on the first turn, Tailwind coming active on the next turn. So later down the line, Kristoff's will have that speed advantage, especially when you also have one of the fastest Pokemon in the format, the Dragapult. If you are able to delay the game just enough, you will be outspeeding this Dragapult. It does not carry Protect, so it cannot try to keep itself safe for the 1 turn that Tailwind will be faster on Kristoff's side. It is locked with a choice band, so it will have to keep using offensive moves for the rest of the game.
Well, this is where the Dragonite Scale Shot really comes into its own. The speed boost will take it to be faster than this Dragapult. Because both teams are in Tailwind, effectively neither team is in Tailwind until that first Tailwind expires. And so Scale Shot now is a big super effective attack into the Dragapult here, as the Dragonite goes for its Terror just to keep itself safe just in case.
Yeah, you want to be able to survive some of these Dragon-type attacks that Dragapult can use. Dragon Darts could hit both Pokemon if it didn't go for Fairy-type, but it's actually going to go for the Phantom Force, just vanishing into the Beyond for 1 turn. The Scale Shot going into the Dragonite spot, avoiding that because of the Phantom Force. Drain Punch trying to go into the Ursaluna spot, but the Ursaluna on Azri's side just decides to go for the Protect. So pretty null turn, no damage done on the board. You know that the Dragapult is going to be moving first on the next turn. It will be able to go into either the Dragonite or the Annihilate. The Mousehold that we know from the POV is in the back. You could switch it in and get a call out that the Phantom Force could just do nothing, but it's a hard thing to call out. It's a true 50-50.
Yeah, especially since the Dragapult for Azri had to choose its target before it went for the Phantom Force, and that target gets locked in for the turn that it comes back onto the field and does the damage. So it is a little bit of a call here, but equally, Christoph might be quite happy for the Mousehold to end up in the back and not take any risks here, not take any damage. Here's the Phantom Force knocking out the Annihilate, so if Christoph had swapped out the Dragonite there as he was considering before, it would have been just a key KO there. But Christoph holding their ground, going for the Scale Shot into the Ursaluna, probably double targeting it after the double Protect, and now this means that the Mousehold in the back is going to safely be able to redirect those Ghost type attacks from the Dragapult for as long as the game remains on the field, and can now concentrate on whatever Azri's final Pokemon is as the opposing Tailwind peters out and the last Pokemon comes in for Azri.
Yep, and the Tailwind on Kristoff's side that was set up by the Dragonite on the second turn is still active, so now you are going to be guaranteed faster, at least for this turn, as Typhlosion from Azri's side of the field pops into the battle. The Typhlosion is also going to be choice specs with no Protect available. A Scale Shot from the Dragonite into the Typhlosion spot, if it were to be able to hit, could just knock out this Typhlosion based on how much investment in its defenses it has. But most of the time with these types of teams, you're investing full on in your speed and your offense.
Certainly. So here's the Scale Shot coming in. It does connect. So that's a really big deal here. This Dragapult is going to have to commit to attacking and then attack the next turn every single time, but only 4 hits. So Mousehold gets to follow up. We saw the preview of what's going on here. This is the beat up. 2 hits because there's only 2 Pokemon left, but that is enough with the super effective damage to be able to knock out this Typhlosion. That is, I've never seen beat up actually pick up a key KO like that before. But the Mousehold is able to just get there, just make sure that it's able to. And now, with the Dragapult locked into Ghost-type moves, and the Mousehold having the ability to follow me away attacks from the Dragonite, it's just a matter of time before Christoph is able to get that final Scale Shot into Azri's Dragapult.
Yep, as long as the Scale Shot does not miss entirely, we'll be fine in the situation. Opting to go for the Tailwind to just make sure that you are going to be faster no matter what in this endgame situation. The Phantom Force going into the Mousehold after using Follow Me. As a Ghost-type attack, it cannot hit Normal-type Pokemon, so this game is effectively going to be sealed here. The battle is conceded, and we're going to be having a 1-0 lead for Kristaps.
Yeah, really nice way to play that end game. I really like the decision to just attack into the Ursaluna with both of your Pokemon, not play any guessing games about where the Phantom Force was going to be targeted, and go for the Terra Fairy just in case the Dragapult locked in a dragon type attack. And so either one of the moves that Dragapult could lock in would have led to a difficult spot for Azri to be able to navigate. And I think this is the key to the matchup that we were talking about earlier, is like, how do you get these powerful damage dealing Pokemon into their great position, or their perfect position if you're Azri, and how does Christoph just navigate those enough to be able to take an advantage?
Yeah, Azri trying to go for the Tailwind speed control, trying to get that initial burst damage with the Blood Moon Ursaluna, Terra Normal, Blood Moon, to be able to pick up so much damage onto the opposing Blood Moon. But because it was Assault Vest, it was able to survive that one turn, get some damage in return onto the opposing side of the field, with the Dragonite also getting some additional damage, getting the Tailwind up later on. The damage effectively, it mattered for Kristoff's, but just like Azri was able to try to get as much damage onto the field, didn't end up mattering. The damage wasn't enough to pick up that one knockout you need, which led to more damage rolling on later on.
Yeah, it's like that's exactly it. So let's get into game 2. Let's see how Azri's going to be able to adjust from that, whether he's able to pick up those key knockouts in the early game to set him up for the later game sweep. So we're starting off again with Whimsicott Ursaluna. I think that's a really nice call from Azri, because you know exactly how much damage that the Blood Moon is going to do on turn 1. But this is the opportunity for both of these players to mix things up. And I wonder if Azri knocking out the Dragonite is a potential route to victory, given how important it was in the early game. You are threatening it down turn 1 with a Moonblast and with a Blood Moon. That would easily be able to pick up the KO there. And the Ursaluna it's pretty threatening, but because it can't protect itself, because it can't set up any speed control, actually Azri could potentially carve out a pretty big advantage on turn 1 here.
Yep, absolutely. And remember that the Dragonite only has the Scale Shot, so it can actually not hit into the Whimsicott for the same turn. So you can't actually get a KO onto this Whimsicott in this turn. We do see another Terra Normal coming through for Azri, trying to use as much damage as possible, be as efficient as possible with your damage output early on. Moonblast actually going into the Ursaluna. No Tailwind setup. Scale Shot is going to connect into this Ursaluna, guaranteed 4 or 5 hits depending on how the dice rolls. This could be 4, and we do only get 4, so no 5. Just going to only be doing about 40% of the HP, just surviving a little bit more. Blood Moon Ursaluna on Azri's side is going to be moving faster than Kristoff's. Blood Moon going into the Ursaluna, going to be picking up the KO with a helping hand from that Moonblast from the Whimsicott.
And that's the key, isn't it? As a switch up, you know that the Ursaluna was able to survive the Blood Moon on just a sliver of HP. It turns out you've got a pretty fast Pokemon next to you that's got an attack that can do some damage. And so, especially with what happened, or what Christoph decided to lock into in game 1 with the Blood Moon into the Whimsicott, taking it down to its focus sash, knocking out that Ursaluna that can't protect itself. There's no switch-ins to that slot either. So you know that's a nice, safe place to put all your damage, and you can Tailwind later. You don't have to Tailwind on turn 1. Now the Annihilate comes in alongside the Dragonite, threatening quite a bit of damage here. But this is the turn where Azri gets to go for a Tailwind and start setting up that speed control.
Yeah, I'm curious on how fast this Blood Moon Ursaluna is on Azri's side. You would have to imagine that Whimsicott... looks like Protect is actually going to be used for Blood Moon Ursaluna, trying to keep itself safe on this turn from either an attack from the Dragonite or from the Annihilate as well. Blood Moon Ursaluna protecting that attack. Whimsicott going for the Moonblast, breaking that multi-scale, doing decent amount of damage and reducing the special attack, not going to matter too much because the Scale Shot is a physical attack. Rage Fist, unboosted, not going to be doing too much, but more importantly, being able to break that Focus Sash later on down the line.
Yes, so Christoph going for that Scale Shot, being able to KO in the Tailwind environment because of the speed boost that the Dragonite already had from the first Scale Shot, and so Azri playing defensively there. But Azri doing a really good job of taking the pieces that really don't do too much damage most of the time and using them really effectively. Whimsicott being the Pokemon I'm talking about, getting those Moonblasts off over and over again really does soften up Christoph's team for this final endgame scenario where the Dragapult comes back onto the field, the Typhlosion comes back onto the field. They're potentially in a Tailwind environment, and they can really start putting the pressure on.
And here comes the Tailwind finally being activated. Dragonite is going to be moving first, even though the Tailwind's activated, meaning that the Dragonite gets that attack in first. That's going to be a 4th Scale Shot hit and is going to be enough. Don't need to get a 5th one. Chance it there. Blood Moon Ursaluna is going to be going down in the turn. Annihilate is the last Pokemon to act. More than likely trying to get some sort of damage into the Whimsicott. It could also go for a bulk up, I believe, has it, but deciding to just go for the easy damage. Rage Fist, still not boosted by any attacks, but crucially just getting some more damage into the Whimsicott.
And now this Dragonite has boosted up its speed twice, but the Tailwind effectively negates that. So with the Tailwind, this Typhlosion is going to outspeed the Dragonite. There's a nice, easy Sunny Day Eruption waiting in the wings, but also because Dragonite has Terastallized, Annihilate cannot Terastallize away from its Fairy-type weakness, so that Moonblast is still looking pretty potent here.
And here comes the Sunny Day, as you mentioned, just trying to set up that extra Fire-type damage. The Dragonite is Terra Fairy now, so it doesn't get access to that resist. But how can you resist a Eruption-boosted, Choice Specs boosted, Sunny Day boosted Typhlosion? It is a very strong attack in this format. Dragonite is going to be going down. The Annihilate has to protect to try to stay alive, while the Maushold switches in, trying to offer a little bit more protection. But even in this situation, you're going to be taking some significant damage from another Eruption on this turn.
There's no way around all of the damage output that this Typhlosion is going to be offering here. Follow Me is the starting point. It takes away the ability for Whimsicott to be able to follow up with a big attack. With the Friend Guard, the Annihilate may be able to hang on here, but the Eruption's coming down. Yeah, Annihilate does hang on, and the Rage Fist is going to be boosted up to its first stack, so to speak. And that's going to make it significantly more powerful overall. But if you knock out the Typhlosion here, which is the choice for Christoph, then that Moonblast is still going to be super effective. And let's not forget, there is a Dragapult likely waiting in the wings to come in, and that can launch a big Phantom Force that the Annihilate cannot Terastallize away from its weakness to.
Yep, and you called it perfectly. The Dragapult is coming in from the back, from the bench, going to be able to come into this match with the Tailwind active. No Tailwind on Kristoff's side. So an easy Dragon Darts or any attack realistically is going to be picking up the final KO. You have 2 offensive Pokemon on the field. You're going to use the Outrage for the maximum damage output, picking up the lower HP Annihilate and winning this second round for Azri.
Absolutely outrageous way to win that game.
I didn't pick up on that for a second.
Yeah, just pun intended. Pun intended. No, it was that was a really nicely played game by Azri. A really nice way to adjust. Knowing that Whimsicott is just that bit safer, I think is really, really key in this matchup. And the fact that the Dragonite on Christoph's side had to commit all of that damage down into the Blood Moon Ursaluna to be able to knock it out that turn was really telling overall as to how this match sort of played out, because while the Dragonite was busy knocking out the Ursaluna, Azri got to soften up all of the pieces, get the Tailwind speed control up, and then Boom Boom Typhlosion comes in and starts cleaning up the board.
Yeah, recognizing for Azri that you don't have to go for that immediate Tailwind, trying to just get rid of the Blood Moon or Ursaluna on that first turn, but recognizing if you decide, knowing that the Blood Moon Terra Normal does not get the one-hit knockout into the Assault Vest Blood Moon Ursaluna, knowing that you can just go for a Moon Blast into that spot again, picking up the KO means that you don't lose that Focus Sash on that first turn. The Annihilate in the back does not come in and be able to pick up an easy KO later on, and then you get to use Tailwind for later. Like you mentioned, the Blood Moon Ursaluna, the Terra Normal one from Azri's side, and it ends up going down to the Scale Shot because that's what the Dragonite can only do, because it cannot actually hit the Whimsicott that is a Fairy-type Pokemon, leading to a free switch in on the Typhlosion, and then going for Eruptions.
Yeah, so it's like pretty nicely mapped out game there for Azri, but this is the great thing about these best-of-3 sets. They've seen it now. They both know what could be in store, and the question is, do they both go for the same strategy again? Do we see the same leads over and over again? Because we've seen a couple of different permutations of exactly how that can play out. Or is there a switch up in game 3? Because this is where it's all to play for.
Yep, the winner of this is going to be moving on into the top cut phase of our tournament. Let's get into game number 3. The leads are going to be live in just a moment. Are we going to be seeing something similar for both players, or is it going to be a switch up? Whimsicott and Ursaluna, the same leads in the same locations. And we actually do see a complete lead switch up for Kristaps. Golden Go and Rillaboom making their debut in this match.
Yeah, it's like seeing this is a completely different way of approaching the match for Christoph, and I really like this. You pressure the Ursaluna instantly with the fake out pressure from the Rillaboom, and even if the Rillaboom gets encored, you then force a choice between the Ursaluna. Does it go for an Earth Power or a Blood Moon into your Golden Go that can terrestrialize into or away from a weakness to the attack? A Terra Normal Blood Moon from Ursaluna will knock out a Terra Water Golden Go, but an Earth Power won't. And so Christoph is forcing the mind games early on and maintaining that Dragonite in the back that I think overall causes Azri quite a lot of trouble.
Yep, and here comes the turn. Ursaluna, for the 3rd time in a row, going to be terrestrializing on the first turn, the Terra Normal, with a jewel on its head, trying to do as much damage as possible into Kristaps' Pokemon. We're going to immediate Tailwind. No matching Tailwind possible for Kristaps. We do have the Grassy Glide, going to be removing that ground weakness. Doesn't take too much. Blood Moon coming out immediately in the turn, going into the Rillaboom spot. One would have to imagine without that Assault Vest that a Rillaboom normally likes is going to be picking up the one-hit KO. Rillaboom is down.
Okay, so this was much more explosive turn than I was predicting that it was going to be. Now the Shadow Ball goes into the Ursaluna, so it looks like Christoph was predicting a switch out into one of the Ghost type Pokemon that's been consistently in the back for Azri this entire time. But now Golden Go gets to sort of sit a little pretty while the Dragonite can go for a Tailwind, match the speed control. There's only Hyper Voice or Earth Power available for this Ursaluna. And, you know, it's a question in many respects because of the good as Gold ability. Golden Go doesn't have to worry about being hit by an Encore. That doesn't work on the Golden Go. It can Nasty Plot, it can protect itself, it can try to get itself into a little bit of a better situation against these two big, powerful threats.
Okay, we're going to see Kristaps going for the Terrestrialization on the Golden Go. Terra Water is going to be the option. No Dragonite Terra here. Trying to remove that ground weakness from the Earth Power from the opposing Blood Moon Ursaluna. Dragonite trying to keep the multi-scale up and not take too much damage from Azri's side of the field. Moonblast, so no Tailwind. Actually, Tailwind was already set up. Moonblast into the Dragonite, trying to break the multi-scale, not going to work. Hyper Voice as another option to just get some good spread type damage in onto the field. Not going to be hitting the Dragonite, but it will hit that Golden Go. And now that it's not a steel type Pokemon, it's now Terra Water. It is actually taking so much more damage. as a nasty plot is being set up, but is that nasty plot in vain because it might not be able to move first in the next turn?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a difficult spot, right? Because now that the Dragonite has protected itself already, this Whimsicott has the option to just Encore to stop the Dragonite going for a Tailwind there. And I think Christoph was trying to split the difference, trying to get a little bit of extra damage down onto the Ursaluna, or the potential for it, but now just gets locked in to protect with the Dragonite. The Ursaluna's outspeeding, can just Hyper Voice because now the Terra has been spent on the Golden Go, Terra Water, so the Golden Go easily goes down. Now there's the Dragonite is not going to be able to threaten any damage whatsoever, and with the Golden Go and the Rillaboom down, the Dragonite isn't going to be able to switch out of this position. It's going to be locked there, just protecting itself over and over again. The Blood Moon is available on the Ursaluna or on Azri's side, and we know the combination of Blood Moon and the Moonblast is enough to pick up the KO on this Ursaluna. So I think all hopes rest on this Vacuum Wave coming out from Ursaluna as to whether it can pick up the KO onto this Terra Normal Ursaluna, maybe even with a critical hit.
Yep, Dragonite has to force protect because of the Encore. Vacuum Wave doing enough, but not enough. Maybe a critical hit would have been able to pick up the KO, as the Whimsicott and the Blood Moon both go for those crazy special attacks. Blood Moon, Terra Normal, Life Orb picks up the KO after the follow-up from the Moonblast. This game is sealed. The Encore is still active on the Dragonite for another turn. It just successfully went for a Protect, so not guaranteed another Protect, but in vain all the same, because you can keep going for those Encores for the remainder of the game as the Blood Moon can continue to just push out all that damage on with those normal type attacks.
I think Azri did really well there, identifying that actually just swinging with the Ursaluna into the Dragonite alongside the Whimsicott is either I get a KO in this scenario, or the Dragonite protects itself and I can lock it into Protect with an Encore. Either way, because the Tailwind's already up, Azri was denying the Dragonite going for the Tailwind. That was the real threat in this matchup overall. There's two more Pokemon in the back that Azri has available, and so as long as Azri maintains the speed advantage and or the Tailwind, depending on whether they need it with a Dragapult in the back, it's definitely in Azri's favour. Now Christoph just waiting out, trying to get this Encore down locked, but the Dragonite just carries on with its Encore, with its Protects. Ursaluna goes for that final Terra Normal Life Orb Blood Moon into the Dragonite, picks up the clean KO here, and it looks like Malaysia is securing, or at least one step closer to securing, their spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, congrats to Malaysia being able to win that match 2-1. Azri being able to adapt after that first game to continue to just keep on the pressure, just using the same Pokemon in the leads, using that Ursaluna and Whimsicott, but using them in different ways, reacting to what Kristaps was going for on lead in all the three games.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it, when you're against those sort of really offensive teams that have a lot of different ways to position. I always love seeing those kind of teams with Whimsicott there with an Encore, just like, hey, by the way, I'm going to hit you with a stick, and if you protect yourself, well, yeah, you're going to be protecting yourself for a little while longer. I really like seeing that sort of combination of things, and I think Azri, even after losing game one and not putting themselves in the best of overall positions to take that set of 2-0, I think they did really, really well to adjust for both of those games. And I'm struggling to see, without going for the fake out in turn one onto the Ursaluna, is there anything that that Christoph could have done after that turn one? Because you got to make a call, right? You got to make a call in that situation. Could he have done anything to recover that position after the Rillaboom goes down?
I think the important play that Kristaps made that ultimately sealed the fate was that Shadow Ball, because you have to think about what's coming in the back.
Maybe the Make It Rain.
If you're not going, because if you're not going for Make It Rain, you're going for Shadow Ball as your offensive mood. So maybe you're thinking that Typhlosion's coming in, because if you're going for Make It Rain, you could still hit the Whimsicott. It doesn't have Protect. You can bring it down to its Focus Sash. But then you're not doing that much damage into a Typhlosion on a switch in. If it was Dragapult, you would probably think I could just go for Make It Rain as well. But using Shadow Ball and hard calling out that Typhlosion was coming in is such a risky maneuver, especially in Game 3, because that's the set right there.
But also,
if you're able to pick up the damage with
Make
Make It Rain, you actually could use Vacuum Wave and pick up KOs onto the now damaged Blood Moon Ursa Luna, or pick up the Whimsicott on Focus Sash.
I see, like, that is that Game 3 situation, though. Sometimes you've got to make that really big call, and we've got to give Christoph a shout out for making it in a tough spot, because the combination of just fake out into Make It Rain or fake out Nasty Plot could have been really detrimental. But that's not what happened. Malaysia taking the win in this match 3, and we're going to do another little bit of shaking things up. So Andrew, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again later. This will be my last one for this afternoon, but I'm gonna stay tuned. I'm gonna see what the last couple of matches have in store for us. So we're going to be kicking it over to a short break. We'll be back very, very soon.